Hi, my name is Matt Michaelis. I am a guitarist, songwriter, and producer, and I've been writing songs seriously for 14 years. My songs are heavy, both in sound and content, and they typically have big choruses with guitar solos and building intensity as the song progresses. I'm ecstatic to announce that my second album, called Intergalactic, is now out on all digital media platforms. It's a rock and roll album with blues, funk, and psychedelic influences. For this album, I tried to emulate a lot of styles and artists such as Gary Clark Jr., The Black Keys, Jack White, and Rival Sons. So there's a lot of heavy blues rock with a lot of heart and soul. But through all of the 10 songs, there's a lot of angst expressed in a non-direct way. Yet there's also a lot of messages about self-empowerment and perseverance. This album features singers and drummers from where I live near Sacramento, as well as Las Vegas, Nashville, and Los Angeles. This project has taken me a year and a half to finish. That's because every note, every instrument sound, every lyric was deliberate. That might even be to a fault. I had the chance to have some of my songs be heard by some Grammy award-winning producers and songwriters. And they were listening to my stuff. I was committed to having an open mind and learning from it, and they gave me some feedback. On the verses, you should raise the tonal center, and here's some production tips and stuff like that. And I went home and I honestly, with an open mind, tried to think about how to make those work. And each time I tried, I came away thinking, I kind of like the way that I did it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I now pronounce to you my Grammy Award losing album. So 2 years ago, I released my debut album called Resolute. I loved every second of doing my first album. It was very freeing, and I learned a ton. And when I was done, I learned from shopping the album around that it was a very diverse album and it didn't necessarily fit into a mold, which at the time I thought was a good thing. There were some pop songs, there were some rock songs, country, funk. It was kind of all over the place. So I thought, well, that was cool. I learned a lot and I called it good. But then I started to truly feel the itch to create again, this time by focusing on one genre, which is blues rock. Ideas gradually started coming, and I realized with some focus and dedication, this could be my best work yet. I was committed to improving my craft, and I researched every aspect of the recording process. What resulted was a 6-month process of gutting my music room, selling all my existing recording gear, and basically building a new studio from scratch, which is this room. So here's the finished product, everything I did to redo this entire studio. This is the whole room. It's all soundproofed. First of all, I covered the windows. So these are windows, and behind those moving blankets are cardboard, and then there's what's called soundboard. You get it from Home Depot. It helps block out sound. And then you have the movers blankets on top of it, and that helps keep the sound in, as well as it helps treat the sound in this room. Then what I did was I researched that sound typically gets trapped in the corners of every room. So I built what's called a bass trap in the corner. There's one down there too, and then there's one on the other side. I also have these pieces of foam up here, so that traps all the sound from being distributed throughout the room. And then I also made these smaller corner traps. Now in the bass trap and the corner traps there, it's basically just sound insulation that's inside, so it's a wood frame and then felt on the outside. I found out how to do that on YouTube. There's a bunch of demonstrations on how to do it. And then on the ceiling I got these absorption panels, and I made these all myself. It's really easy. You just glue these pads to foam and then put a frame around it. I also have my guitar amp inside a bunch of these panels that I made as well. I put this large panel in front of it so that I can really crank the amp and not have it drive my ears crazy, as well as my neighbors. And then on the back door here, got some absorption there as well. Little things like behind these sweet pictures, I have this, it's like packaging foam from like online orders and stuff. And so instead of throwing it away, I put them behind these pictures. Appliance packaging, and I just filled it with like packaging foam, and I spray painted it, and actually works really good. And all these changes combined are what helped me to record drums in here. This room's in the front of my house, and neighbors are like 10 feet in that direction. I warned them ahead of time that I was going to be recording drums, and they were cool with it, but what really made it doable was all this sound treatment that I did. So challenges in doing this project. Well, first was my Mac. My Mac is 10 years old, and there were times when I would honestly feel like in the middle of a session my computer was going to explode. Another challenge was I'm not a professional. I'm still an amateur. I'm very passionate, but there were times when working with professional singers and drummers that my timing was a little off and I didn't know it. So for example, for the last 5 songs on the album, I worked with Nate Barnes, a drummer out of Nashville, and he's fantastic. He truly gets my style, and I really appreciate that. There's one song, Masquerade, that kind of has like this groove to it, and I played it to a click, so I thought it was all in time, and then when he got the files, he's like, it's not in time. So I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he sent me this file back where he clapped along in eighth notes perfectly to the track, and he pinpointed like where the riff was rushing and slowing down. So then I saw it, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's totally out of time. So then I had to re-record the whole song. But every moment on this album comes from the absolute best job that I can do. So I grew a lot in that process. Finding singers was also a challenge. I approached probably 15 or 20 singers for the first 5 songs, and it only worked out to collaborate with 4. And that is what eventually led me to start using the website Sound Better, which enables you to hire professional session musicians from all over the world. So I started using Sound Better and found that not only were they dependable, they took feedback well, they took direction well, but I got the files back in a lot quicker time. And 7 songs on the album, I used Sound Better for 7 of those singers. There were times when I felt like I was going to go mad. There's a quote being circulated right now by Jason Isbell that says, "Songwriting is like attempting to solve a crossword puzzle during a therapy session." And I totally felt like that at times when I was writing these songs and trying to really figure out what I was saying. But there were also times when I couldn't contain my excitement. And of course, that's what makes this all worth it. This album features a lot of awesome singers and drummers. The first song I did, Wishing Well, this song features Stevie Ten Bears from the band On Off, near where I live. Awesome band. They relocated here from Ireland to California, and awesome dude. For the second 4 songs, I used Nasa. She's a studio drummer from LA that moved up to Sacramento, near where I live. She came over to my house and we did drums there, and she was incredible. I mean, she has stories of drumming for Stevie Wonder and Dr. Dre and Michael Jackson. She had all these like people's cell numbers, in her contacts list and stuff. So that was pretty cool. That was awesome. However, recording drums in my house gave me a nervous breakdown because of my computer, obviously. I was nervous that everything was going to crash. I learned a lot about how to record drums, but I still never felt like I was an expert. So for the last 5 songs on the album, I used Nate Barnes. Singers, I used Laura Schultz. She's a singer, kind of a blues rock singer from where I'm from. I used Emil, who is a very versatile artist in Sacramento. I used Samantha Airsmith, who is a phenomenal singer and pianist in the Sacramento area where I lived. Formerly fronted the band Back Alley Buzzards. Then I used a session singer named Scott Foster Harris for 3 songs. He's out of Las Vegas. Awesome dude. It was really incredible experience working with him. I used Nikki Gonzalez out of Los Angeles for 2 songs. She blew me away, and she was incredible to work with. Loved every minute of working with her. I used Jakey H. He requested I didn't use his full name for Cold Hard Truth, and Chris Hodges. Both are from LA. For the mixing and mastering, I used Tommy Peluso of Mix Studios in Miami, Florida. Tommy is a great guy, very nice, very quick to understand the vision. He's mixed over 600 songs professionally. He has a great ear. He has excellent gear. Really, really excited about the work that he did, and I really appreciate how he made my songs sound. So I never occurred to me to use a preamp before. And so I did a lot of research, and basically a preamp is what helps the sound warm and adds color to it. Just like that's what all the recording studios have. And so I have some pretty entry-level preamps. I sold my acoustic to get these. So first of all, here's the interface. It's a Focusrite interface. It has 8 inputs. The reason why I got it is so that I can record drums. So all the drums that I recorded in this room have 8 microphones on them. And then this is a tube channel strip that I run all vocals through. It's a DBX 376. It took a long time to learn how to use it, but I really love this guy. And for bass sounds, I use this SansAmp bass modeler, and I have an input that goes in there, and that's what gets the main sound. And then I also have a direct out that goes into this channel strip that I also have a second track. So all the bass sounds, which are really thick and kind of large, were obtained that way. This is a Art tube preamp that is a piece of crap. I used it once, and I'm never going to use it again, so I'm going to sell it. I have the Strat, and then I have the Epiphone Casino, which is the guitars I had on my first album. And then this bass guitar is a Squier jazz bass. It's an upgrade from the other Squier bass that I used on my other album. It's just a step up. It's a little bit nicer. And then we got this bad boy, a Fender Jazzmaster, classic player Jazzmaster. This guitar was in my Destiny, and I finally listened to my Destiny. So I got that guitar halfway through. I had the intention of selling my Strat to get it, and I couldn't let go of my Strat because I learned on that guitar. So I haven't sold it yet, but I sold some other stuff to help get this guy. But the Jazzmaster, the tone is exceptional. This sub and up right here, that's how I use for like the octave sounds, like the really kind of raunchy fuzzy stuff, like a Rival Sons type sound. So this octave, the sub up octave plus the fuzz is glorious. And then these 2 pedals are the overdrive pedals that I used. I got them halfway through, and that made all the difference in the world. I mean, these things are just amazing. They're both Zvex products. The Box of Rock emulates a Marshall amp, and then the 59 sound emulates a Bassman amp. The rest of the stuff I just used here and there. I discovered new recording techniques that I never would have thought of before. Everybody talks about miking the cone of the guitar amp. And what I normally do is this is a dynamic mic just towards the center of the cone, and then I have a condenser mic like right here. And then in the software, I'll drag the files from the condenser mic forward a little bit so there's no phase issues. And so what I found out differently this time around was I had a hard time finding the sweet spot, like the speakers right here. I had a hard time finding the sweet spot, so what I did was I put a second mic in a different part, and then that captured way more frequencies of the speaker, and so the guitar tone on these songs is a lot better than my last album because of that sole reason. So I'm really pleased about that. So the artwork is something that I actually did myself. I've been really fascinated with collage art recently, which is where you take like a vintage National Geographic and you use a straight edge to cut out various photos and you combine them in creative ways. So that's basically what I did, except I did it on a computer. I used stock photos and combined them in a creative way. I wanted to portray something that was like out of this world, like beyond our current understanding. So let's get to some songs. So let's focus on maybe the last 5 that I did. Masquerade is a song that features Nikki Gonzalez, and it stems from how disenfranchised I am becoming with Instagram. One of the verses states, "Beach blonde, spray tan with the perfect man, force feed me to understand." That's kind of like on Instagram, people only want to portray their best sides, and so another lyric is, "Let's go, sail away, escapade to the perfect place in every perfect way." People really try to maintain their impressions that they have with other people, and I'm just kind of tired of it. I just tell me something real. Tell me what's really going on. That's in the chorus.
Let's go, sail away, escapade to the perfect place in every perfect way. One track mind, all your time.
Good Thing was the hardest song to write for me. Songwriting is like solving a puzzle, and I worked for a really long time on trying to fit the lyrics with chorus. It was really tricky. It was inspired by a Foo Fighters song called "A Sky Is Your Neighborhood," and I wanted to kind of do something a little bit psychedelic, but also have like a driving chorus. But I'm really proud of how that one turned out. That's probably one of the songs that I'm most proud about.
Right over down. If this amounts to anything, that's when you'll figure it out. When you gonna wake up, break from the chains and hold me.
The Promised Land, featuring Scott Foster Harris. This all deals with how one handles when life doesn't turn out the way that you expected. So they're curveballs. So you spend your whole life trying to get to a certain area or that certain job or marry a certain person or whatever, and the vision you have in your head is very different than what actually plays out. And so you spend your whole life trying to get to the promised land, and you find out it's something totally different. So in the promised land, where the trees don't grow and the colors end, it's kind of like, a shock to the system. That song deals with persevering through those moments. A cool thing about the Promised Land is that it features real transcripts from NASA from their missions to the moon. You'll see the radio sounds. There's samples on there. And then actually I also recorded some myself with my own voice, but that was kind of a cool twist.
The pleasure in the rain, in the promised land, where the trees don't grow and the colors end.
So Intergalactic, that's the title track on the album. This is the song where I'm honestly going for a commercial vibe here. I followed the song structure exactly to what they are out there. I had the tonal center of the chorus shift up from the verse, like the Grammy Award-winning dude said. Basically, it's a song about self-empowerment, about confidence, about doing your best. And the cool thing about this song is, on the CD version of the song, it features a cool audio track that comes from Lassen National Park in Northern California. So while my family and I were there a couple months ago, we stopped by this interpretive trail, and I recorded this from one of the buttons that you push.
Channel labeled rock and roll is situated in a relatively clear area bordered by rocks.
So then I have like guitar feedback like oozing into this, and then it comes in with like stick hits, and then it's a fast song, kind of an in-your-face song. But the reason why the iTunes and Spotify don't have that version in it is because I asked for the Forest Service to use that commercially in a song, and they never responded, so I didn't want to have any issues down the line, so I just cut that out for the version on the internet.
Cash with short hands, vindicate my innocence, effectuate with dissonance. I'm out of sight, out of mind, overdrive space and time. Put it in the
Alright, the final song I wanted to feature was my favorite song. It's called Your True Side. This song was inspired by a time about 4 or 5 months ago when I went to a Rival Sons concert. Rival Sons are one of my top influences, just kind of the garagey blues, rock, hard rock type sound. And that concert shook me to the core. I went home and I just started writing and jamming, and this is what came out of it. The background is that I have this guy I know that got engaged, and after he got engaged, he was still fooling around. And it blew me away that he never thought he could be caught. And so I wanted to say, like, you're crazy, but in a creative way. So in this song, I actually rewrote the chorus 5 times until I finally got something that I was pleased with. But the groove from Nate and Scott's vocals are just killer, a lot of soul, a lot of vibe. I'm just really excited about it. In fact, this is the song I'm going to be marketing the most. I'm hoping it landed in a playlist or something somewhere.
while you holler back at her, she's on to you. But you keep on living for yourself. No fire. Heed the cries of yesterday, retiring sun and Richmond rain.
So, in conclusion, I grew a ton making this second album of mine. I'm ecstatic with how it turned out. I have 0 regrets, 0 reservations. This is an extension of me in its purest form. I'm super excited to finally announce that it's done. I'd like to thank everyone that contributed on this album, all the awesome singers and drummers. Tommy Peluso mixed and mastered it. All the people that donated to my Kickstarter campaign to fund the second half of this album. I can't express enough gratitude. And lastly, I want to thank my wife, Autumn, for supporting me through all of it. At the times when I was going mad, the times when I needed feedback and didn't have anyone else to go to. Or her overall support of helping me grow in this passion of mine. So I hope you enjoy the album. Check it out. Would love to hear any comments, any feedback. Thank you. Thanks for checking it out.